$7,027 if we could. That's budgeted for 23.
I'm looking at wrong numbers, I'm sorry. But expended to date in 2023 is 3696 with a 3331 balance.
Okay, I have more than that. I have $6,086 expended to date on mine.
That was for
So that's
2022.
Sheets are old. He's probably got an
Yeah.
updated,
I'd given him-
spreadsheet.
Oh, you're right. My apologies. You're right.
What's on the screen? Is that the same as the handout or is that a new date
So I see the
updated?
balance.
The
the same.
screen is the end of August, and I had just
Screen is
given,
what I think we have in the book.
Okay,
So we are at 3698. My apologies. We expended 3698. The only thing I could see maybe increasing that is if we have a staffing shortage. So we're probably okay at what it was
Okay.
before.
So 600,
I think we should keep it there.
okay, all right.
But wasn't this spreadsheet done in August? Isn't it date August 30th?
Yeah,
Is it
that's
Jan?
correct.
What do you have?
I'll trust you on that.
It also, it's enough. Last year, we were shorthanded most of the year. This year, we've been fully staffed, so.
Any more questions?
So you comfortable with that?
I think I'm comfortable with that.
All right.
Yes.
I just wanted to point it out so we all
Yeah.
know what we're talking about.
Police chief salary, that's governed by a contract, so there is an increase that's proposed or expected for that. The PD overtime is at 25,500. I think we can leave that alone. We're doing well right now. We're on target, so I think that's okay. Insurance, life insurance, Medicare, retirement, that's all part of the salary stuff. Skip down to. So some of these line items are now added new to the budget.
Ryan, can I interrupt you for just a comment?
Yep. Yep.
On the line that's Medicare and FICA and retirement, the police department is fairly unique. It has weird schedules in terms of FICA. It depends on whether you're an officer or not, part of retirement, all the rest. And I calculated the numbers. And I believe that the Carrie Ann, take a look at them again. And I'll be happy to tell you how I got them or any way you want, but not right now. I could after the meeting if you want, but the numbers I've shown, instead of 16,000 for FICA Medicare, I see 13,570, assuming a 3% pay increase. And I've redone that, the formulas based on what the correct FICA is for the police department, all the other departments, and the same thing for retirement. Not everybody is in the higher price retirement system. So that's why there's differences. So you got roughly an $8,000 difference. And we could talk about it later, but I'm just pointing out it's there. There's an $8,000 difference on the New Hampshire retirement side.
On the retirement line, not the.
Low or high, which way?
The Acura one, I believe, is gonna be 8,000 less, and I think under the Medicare, the Acura one's gonna be 3,000 less. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Thanks, Mike.
Do we want to skip to software support, or do you have questions about the unemployment insurance, workers' comp? Okay, software support, it says Twin Bridges contract 17,000. And speaking with Carrie Ann, the 17,000 is the PD's portion of the contract that the town has with Twin Bridges. They provide our software support, computers, laptops, anything that's software related in our cruisers and in our PD. And then they have the chief software is what she labeled it as, but that $15,000 is actually what we pay for our software license to the town of Hanover for our database system that we use. So
Is your spreadsheet different than ours? I don't see 17,000.
Where are you talking
Yeah, I
about?
think
Right.
right.
Where are we?
this is what I
It's a no.
in the note.
Okay,
Yeah, I have 32. Twin Bridge contract server and budgeted for 2023 15.
So 17, 15 together is 32.
So that would include 2023 as well.
No, it's just for 24. It's just
Oh,
You
so
anticipate-
just cross out 32 and put 17?
No.
You should, do you have a note,
Oh,
in the notes, under 24 notes, it says, do you have that?
Twin Bridges
No.
contract and server is
Yeah.
what I have.
Same.
It says, yeah.
Yeah, it should-
I have it.
So
as-
I guess we
so
just,
that's what $17,000 increase that you, gotcha, okay.
You have. updates on what I
Because,
just
that-
sent you.
because
Having
where did that
15,
17,000 come from? What,
Hold on.
The numbers are all right, I just brought in the note field.
Okay, so the numbers didn't change on your end.
Correct.
Wait, okay.
I haven't changed numbers.
somebody help us. Where did we get 32? What is it? What's the two numbers we add together?
17,000 is the police portion of the Twin Bridges contract.
Okay.
And then we pay the town of Hanover 15,000 a year for the CSI.
Yep,
software.
CSI software that we use for our database.
So is this another instance where we've taken something from another part of the budget and put it in a different line?
The CSI software was always budgeted to this line, and then we added in the police portion of the Twin Bridges contract.
That is 17,000.
Yes,
Add that to the 15 that's there and we get 32.
so
Okay.
could I ask, is there a place in the budget where that $17,000 is reduced then?
yes.
Somewhere else in the budget?
In last meeting, when we went through all the town hall and general government lines, that was where it used to be charged one big lump sum. So we're trying to move all the department costs out to the department, so we can get an accurate picture.
So there is that
Yep.
reduction. Yeah, this is what's so hard about trying to figure this out.
Yeah, it was
Okay.
the data processing lines we went through 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, right, well.
Yes, Mike?
Carrie, I'd ask if you put the note back in that was in the last spreadsheet. When it says Twin Bridges contract 17K, chief software 15K. That's gone, but it's informative. You can take it out before you print it. But I think it ought to be in there through the process.
Yeah, I'm having trouble getting my work stuff to sync with the laptop, and I've asked Twin Bridges to work on it. So the numbers have stayed the same. The notes I've been adding don't always sync up.
I'm just.
Maybe we should revisit how much we're paying them.
Okay, well, my copy is gone.
All right, any other questions on the software line?
What's that? Moving on to the contracted services line, there's $100 in there that is a new line item that's been established for future use. Electricity, I know that the town is doing their best to try and break out each building, so that is what's estimated for electricity use here in this building. That includes the EOC, I believe, and in the entire PD. Heating, oil and gas, again, this line item is they're doing their best to break these out into specific buildings or departments, so we know what we're spending. Water and sewer, fuel, fuel is our car fuel. And so this number is 24,000, and they're getting this based off of, we do fuel tracking, so anytime we fill up our cruisers, we track that, and so Carrie Ann has been going through that and pulling that data and trying to determine exactly what we're spending in each department. So that's the number that we have there.
Can I back you up a bit?
Yes, sir.
Sorry. Back to the $100 for contracted services. Do we have something in mind that we're gonna do there, or is it just a placeholder in case something happens?
Carrie Ann, we have,
We
are we gonna put
get,
the,
remember your miscellaneous line had a whole bunch of stuff in it. So we
yes,
created the contractor line, and then, cause it's miscellaneous.
Is this something that had an actual last year?
Yeah, in 2023, we spent $10,000 in that miscellaneous line, so we were trying to identify it. And it was
If we spent 10,000 last year.
to
Should we have 10,000 on this line this year?
I
Are you
wasn't,
trying to move all of the contracted services from miscellaneous?
no, it was a couple different things. Like there was those 3 things we went through the miscellaneous line.
Yeah, I guess if we're gonna, it's only $100, so it's not worth arguing a lot over, but. If it's something we know that we spent money on last year, then we ought to know what that number was, so we can compare the 100 to see if it's reasonable. And then just a minute, Mark. And then if it's something that's just a placeholder in case something happens, then we should probably put $1 in there just to leave the account open in case something happens. But this sounds like you've had actual expenses this past year. So we should know what those are.
We had expenses we didn't plan for that got coded to miscellaneous. So if we have contracted expenses in 2024, I just wanted to create the contractor services
Yeah,
line
but
to
what-
code it.
Historically, what have we had in the way of surprise things that happened during the year that we?
I can answer part of that. We had, I believe it was around $7,400 that the town of Canaan put into a miscellaneous account. That money was spent to buy out a contract of a full-time officer that came from the town of Enfield, and we hired him here. In order for us to bring him here, we felt it was cheaper to pay out the contract than it was to hire a non-certified officer. Substantially cheaper, so that $7,400 was put into a miscellaneous line item. And I believe that's what you were trying to fix, is that right?
Yeah, I just wanted to show what it was instead of just miscellaneous. So if we ever have that again, we have a,
These typically run
Right.
thousands of dollars. Maybe we should have 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 in this account.
Well, but we don't, John. It's only, it was a 1 year hit, and back in 2019, we had another $75 of that.
That was it. You only had two expenses.
So then if we don't expect it to happen this year, it's unlikely. to
No,
happen.
sir, I don't.
So I would think $1 would be the appropriate thing, because that's what we typically put in accounts that we might need.
It's just a consistency thing, is I think what John's getting, at.
Right.
okay,
So, look, we make that a buck and make everybody happy.
Yep.
Okay.
Move on.
He was starting to talk about the car fuel.
Yeah.
I think that's where you were.
Okay,
the car
yeah.
fuel.
Does anybody have any questions about the car fuel? I mean, that the usage?
Can I just back up to electricity and heating oil? How are we dividing this building up? Are they separately metered, each of the three sections there?
okay, we get 3 bills, one EMS, fire and police,
Okay,
so it's easy.
thanks.
And this one is charged to.
Police.
Police.
This is part of the police building.
Just so we get it. Everybody's, okay.
We should allocate some to the budget committee. We meet here.
No, it's okay. Mike has something.
Before we're done, I'd like to make sure that we total up the total amount for electricity and for heating and a couple of other categories, telephone, lights. Just so we can see how it's changed or how we anticipate it's being changed. It used to be pretty much, it's always been an issue, but it'd be nice to see if there's an anticipated increase. Is there, do we anticipate it's gonna go up overall by how much?
I just looked at what we've been paying and kept it similar because I haven't heard of electricity
Okay, so that
spiking or
hasn't been-
anything.
Factors anyway yet.
It has not. I just looked at what we're doing now.
Mike,
Well, along those lines, the 24,000, I was curious, that increase, is that because of the price of fuel or because there'll be more patrols?
I think that, yeah, I think that's the numbers are, we expended 12 so far, we got 4 left in the balance from the 17.5 that we had. And we're projecting an increase from 17.5 to 24.
Right.
That seems like a lot.
So that, I'm asking, is that because of the price of fuel? I don't know what gas was a year ago,
Good
or
question.
it could be there's more patrols that.
What do you guys got?
From what I could tell, looking at the general ledger, we hadn't allocated fuel since 2019. So when I came in, Bob pulled everything back to January for me, and I went back and updated this year to get some kind of idea. So it hasn't really been done since 2019. I did my best for 2023 and we'll keep allocating everything going forward. So the 24,000 is my best shot at being accurate right now with minimal history.
Okay.
And I think to Mike's point, Samson's point is we've now broken out, let's just pick electricity just for kicks, right? So we now have electricity in all these different departments. In the past, we had one electricity number. Right, so they should basically line up. is what we're getting at, I get, Mike, is that what you're trying to get at?
No, so in the past it was broken out as well. It has
Okay.
nothing to do with Carrie Ann, has nothing to do with the accounting system.
Okay,
It has to do with yo-yos that drive around in big Irving trucks. So what happens is they don't, when they see 3 fill holes out here, they have no idea whether it's highway, fire, or police department. They put down whatever the driver thinks it is, and this has been a perpetual issue. And at least 2 of the vendors in the last 12 years have not been able to figure out, even though there's a sign on the top that says highway, they can't figure it out. So the only way to, unless you want to go out and try to retrain drivers, which we aren't going to do. The only way you can do it is actually look at the totality, so that's why I argue the totality of what's available, and you can do it that way, and that's probably the safest thing. Do I think that number is right? No, not at all. But I think it's because it's an area back here with 3 fill plates. It's been a problem for years.
So you're just talking about the heating oil portion.
Yeah, but you got similar issues and other things, but the heating part is a biggie. It's not so big on the town office because there isn't any accumulation of bill tanks and stuff. But we've actually had one bill that came in that billed a few years ago, that billed the transfer station off against the highway department. Why? Because there were hired trucks going in. So it happens, and I don't think there's a good safeguard. You're not gonna call Irving and say, before you make a delivery, pick up somebody from the town to monitor it. And, you know, we've tried in the past many, many times to get them called all the way up to Canada to see if they would have their people identify the correct sign. No. We've even run out of fuel at one of the stops because he picks the first fill pipe comes to and puts the fuel into it. So there's no fuel for the next building over.
Yeah, because that spreadsheet shows there's no expenditure for that, for the police department in 23.
That's why you gotta total it out to see if
Yeah,
it works.
so where is, it's gotta be someplace else.
Well, we've been paying all the invoices get paid out of the highway account, and then I go in after the fact and do journal entries based on what all the employees are writing down on pieces of paper over at the pump. So it's not perfect by any means.
But I'm talking about heating oil and gas. That doesn't have anything to do with the driver, the town employees. This has to do with Irving. If we're not talking about the heating. But there's nothing in that spreadsheet that says 0.
Nate,
Yes.
difference between fuel and heating. So heating is the Irving problem. Fuel is a different problem. For 4 years, no one has done the calculations until now. It was left up to Bob to do the calculations that was assigned by the board, that he had to do it based on the slips that, you know, like fire, highway department, fire department, police department put in. For a while, the town tried using Lisa to go over and do it, and then the responsibilities got too much for Lisa. And Bob said he didn't have time to do it because of the time he was putting in as a mechanic. So the long and short of it is, yeah, it had slips, but nobody ever posted the slips. So it all got lumped together and.
So we have, just from my own knowledge, we have our own gas tanks that we fill all of our fleet up with.
We have
whether
our
it's
own gas
fleet-
tanks, yeah, and
Oh, diesel too?
we have diesel, I think it's over at the other, it's a different location, but we have.
So this is what you're talking about is slips, is just keeping track of how much, you know, when chief fills up his rig, you know, fills it out so many gallons, and then you guys.
If Carrie Ann records it, you'll finally get an accurate idea. And what you gotta be careful is you may end up thinking we've taken delivery of, 20,000 gallons and. You've only got slips for 10,000 gallons, there's nothing left in the tank, so that's a problem. But you would see that, a true up when you do it, but it's much better to have the slips and do it on the slips.
So what I'm hearing is, at least with like the fuel, for example, and if it's gonna be like this for the police department, it's gonna be like this for each department. For the gasoline, is that? Because we're starting to keep a track independently, we don't know for sure whether this is. too high, too low, we just don't know.
By department, you don't know.
Right.
What you do is a totality.
Yeah, overall for the three departments, we had budgeted 99,550 last year. And this year it's 110,160. So it's not a big increase overall.
And there was an increase towards the tail end of budgeting last year. Because the rates had already gone up by the time the final budget was approved. And it's actually lower now in spots, so.
So we'll be,
We think a 10% increase on,
seems reasonable, at least, you know.
I
we'll be
thought it was
covered.
reasonable, but I don't know how it totals out. If you've totaled it out, you know more.
Yeah, I just did it by hand.
Yeah.
okay. Any other questions on fuel, heating oil, anything like that? No? All right.
Dues and subscriptions, that's at 2,500, was at 2,500, I think historically, when I look back. We've expended 3 so far, but I do anticipate that I'll have some extra increases for the different chiefs of police associations that I'm signing up for as we go. It's all relatively new to me, but there's several that I will be signing up for. So that would be helpful to keep it at that. Departmental supplies, we are doing well right now. 2,500 seems to be a good number. I think we can manage with that for 24. PD equipment. In my notes, PD equipment is at 46,400. That is to replace 2 dual servers, to upgrade our servers. We're running out of space rapidly. We believe we don't have an estimate from Twin Bridges yet, but based on conversations he had with Carrie Ann, we believe it's going to be roughly $30,000 to do that. The last time I talked to him about a month ago, he said we were running out of space very quickly. So if we don't have that, we're in trouble.
And does that include the sound we were talking about in here in this room as well, or some of that equipment, some of that?
He did
cost,
not,
or-
it did not
Okay.
include that,
Right.
just the servers.
Okay,
These are servers, we have on-site servers and,
specific to the police station,
okay.
not the town servers.
The question doesn't fit in this particular budget, but did the town server get replaced?
It's in process. It has not been finalized yet, but a lot of the prep work has been.
Would that
done.
expensive be in this year's budget?
Carrie Ann, do you know?
The server is already paid for out of last year's budget,
Okay.
and it was $4,500 quote to have him do all the physical manual work to move
Okay.
it.
Just for thought, just because we did this at my place of employment and we got rid of our physical servers and, you know, everything's going to cloud now. I don't know if there's been any thought in town about doing the same thing.
We have discussed it a little bit, with, can't think of his name. Alan, thank you. But, you know, there's some concern with security as well too with that, that he is concerned about with it. So we do some backup, like leave to the cloud right now, but it's not.
And the other observation is, once it's on the cloud, you don't own it anymore. And you subscribe to it. And if you ever get it in your head that you don't want to subscribe to it anymore, you then have to figure out what you're gonna do without all that information. You no longer own the house that it's in. So you're only renting that space, and they're not impenetrable.
Neither are physical servers that we have to maintain.
That is true, so, but just, you know, people are racing to the cloud, no question
I
about
know
it.
it's all going my way. I'm just was curious.
Yeah.
Like,
Just a quick comment, the health center does it both ways. We do it in cloud and we do it back up locally. And I feel at least we got a chance. And the backup locally is on isolated air shielded terabyte drives.
so chief, is it, we're just adding, we have a budget this year that, has got quite a large increase, and that always causes us concern because the people don't like it, they'll just vote it down, and then we're back to the default budget. Is there anything in your budget here where you were like, well, I suppose it could wait, but I mean, I don't want it to, like the server, for example, you've been told that we haven't got another year out of that one.
I have not been told that.
Okay.
I can ask him. I'm due to see him tomorrow, and I think it's worth asking if we can get by at least another year or
Okay.
two with it. and he can take a look at it and project it, but he did strongly suggest that we consider replacing that server.
You'll get back to us on that?
Yes,
Thank you.
yep.
Yes, thank you.
Uniforms, I asked for a slight increase, $500 for uniforms. These uniforms are very expensive. The shirts are $100 a piece, the pants are $100 a piece. Every time we go and buy equipment, it's 3, 4, 5 pieces of equipment or uniform equipment, and it's just about $1,000. And it's just going up, and it's not decreasing for us. And I just feel like we better plan a little bit better. So I'm just asking for a slight increase in that line. For the radars and the radios, I have applied for, and I have been awarded the grant. I haven't seen the final signatures come back yet. So we were awarded $1,800 in highway safety grant money. Part of that money, it's around $6,000 that I could purchase radars for our cruisers, and it's a 75-25 match. So I'll get 75% of that money reimbursed from the state if we can buy a new radar. I'm asking for that line item to be 5,000, and that covers the radars and the radios. If I can get a radar for one of our cars, we have one very old radar that I'd like to replace in 24. I think I'll spend around $1,500 because I have the grant. If a radio goes down in one of our cars, it's close to $3,500 to replace it. Same thing for the radar. If it goes down, they're just very expensive. So I'd like to keep that line item the way it is. And then for training, it looks like maybe a significant increase, but to send people to good training, it's typically $650 to $1,000 for a couple of days of training. I'd like to send people to conferences. When I took over as the chief of police, one of my goals was that I wanted all of our staff to be, and this was obviously discussed with the select board too at the time, and they were supportive that I wanted our staff to receive as much training as possible and the best training that we can get. So I did ask for a little bit of an increase because I'm finding that the trainings are quite expensive to send people off-site. To eliminate some of the burden, the financial burden, I'm having more trainings hosted here. So that gives us oftentimes 2 to 3, sometimes free slots that I can send officers to for free, which is great, but we're using the building more and everybody else is too. So we're finding it challenging to get all those scheduled. So I am asking for a slight increase in that line item.
Are these trainings, I just don't know, are they like, kind of like continuing education, best practices, that kind of stuff?
Yeah. In the state of New Hampshire right now, we're required to do 15 continuing ed classes a year, hours a year, and they're going to increase that gradually over the next 3 years to even more. So that's obviously going to increase some more.
Just a quick question. You know, we've only expended $885 so far this year. We're not training our guys, so we just got a lot of free spots.
Say that again.
Okay, we only expended so far $885.
Out of the training?
That's what it says.
6,000.
No, it's far more.
I'm just,
Yeah, they just did a bunch of training in
Okay.
September and
yeah, I'm just asking,
Yeah.
because, you know, so. I thought we just got a lot of free spots.
Yeah,
I
no,
thought you
it's,
were doing a really
I
good
did
job.
get a lot of free spots, but we have spent more than that. And then the PCS grant line, I know it's blank there, but that is, so it's the highway safety grants that I applied for is a 75-25 match. The 25% match, they take, so if my officer goes out and works 4 hours of a detail, they reimburse him at an overtime rate at that person's overtime rate. And then we are allowed to use a cruiser rate, an hourly cruiser rate. And so that would be our 25% match. Anything that goes, whether it's equipment, whether it's gas, whether it's maintenance, tires, all of that goes back towards the grant as a 25% match. And so I think that's whatever 25% of the 16,000 would be. So
this is the 4,200.
42, yeah, about 43.
Is the 16,000 for the, excuse me, for the radar, the same 16,000 for the patrol reimbursements?
It's all lumped together.
Okay, so, and I think you anticipate getting that in this calendar year?
Yes, before, yep. It's
Okay,
been
so
sent to the AG's office. for
Here's,
signature.
here's a concern, okay? When you put together the budget, you're gonna actually get the revenue for this thing in this fiscal year. You may or may not use it in this fiscal year, you may use it in next fiscal year. So on the revenue side, that grant ought to appear, it has to be after there's a hearing and dedicating its use by the Board of Selectmen. Right? If there's money left over, it needs to be encumbered at the end of the year for use next year. This is the 2024 budget. So I don't know that you have to put that in there. As a matter of fact, I don't think you should, because you're gonna get the revenue into this calendar. Okay, so
Okay.
it's just a housekeeping issue. If you think you're really gonna get the grant next year, then do it next year. And by get the grant, it's a reimbursement grant, right? Right, so it's the award of the grant, not the reimbursements. So if you think you're gonna get the award in November, December. You really need to keep it in this year. You can make a final call about it in December. If you haven't got the grant award in, then put it into the budget.
Okay,
Otherwise, it would just inflate more money to be raised.
I got a question. Yes, this is an example where the spreadsheet on the screen differs from the handout. And it's only one item, and maybe the only item we see tonight. But as we get into this with more maturity, we're gonna find other things creeping in. So I would like to request that we receive an email with the latest spreadsheet every pre-meeting, so that we're up to date on whatever the latest one is.
I think we did last.
I don't have,
I know, I'm just saying we can make the request.
okay, so I'd like to request again this.
Maybe just for the items that are, the whole thing?
It's an email, not just a file.
Yeah, right, well, let's look at the.
I have,
Yes, Ellie?
why can't, it used to be the case, under previous administration, that up-to-date budget not necessarily a budget worksheet, but the expenditures were posted to the website. And right now, the last time I went to try to find it, the only way I could do it was to sign into Google, and I'm not gonna do that. And so if we need it, there's no reason that can't be posted so that the public can see it too. And as far as I know, the selectmen haven't reviewed one in quite some time with the public. So I would make a request that it be posted for public access for everybody. You don't need to do the budget part of it. The proposed budget, just the current 2023 budget versus expenditure and what's left.
So
And then everybody will have it.
Ellie's request is different than mine.
Right.
Well, it's the same thing. Unless there's changes in the request for 2024, that's a different issue. But what we're working on was, we're making comparisons, and this was gonna be my point earlier. Is it looks like there's a big, huge increase in the police department request, but it's not really, because you're not comparing apples and apples. Because there's things in there that get allocated to the police department that weren't allocated before. So you're not making a fair comparison.
It's actually 77,000, I think. It looks like it's over 200,000, but
It's like workman's comp
Right.
and health insurance, which the department heads have no control over,
it's about a 9% increase.
which is unfair.
Yes, Mike?
On the notes, if you would temporarily put in 2 notes.
Under which line?
It's gonna be under the PCS grant.
Okay.
And put in the phrase under notes, patrol and radar. So that people, our group won't forget it. You can pull it up before you give it to the public, but at least it'll keep us on track. And then the note that was up above under the equipment line used to say, similar to what's at there, said, chief's equipment 15K and dual server upgrade Twin Bridges 30K. At least put those 2 numbers in there for now. If you get a different number from Bridges, well, or from Alan, we'll change it. But it make, I think, more notes rather than less notes at the moment makes sense.
So We heard Ellie's request, but are we gonna be able to you're gonna email us before this couple of days if possible, before the next meeting?
Yep.
With an updated version of this electronically, so we can have all of that.
Yeah, she's doing it once a month anyway, so.
Huh?
She's doing it once a month, so.
Yeah, I'll send the email.
That's good enough.
Okay, great,
Thank you.
fantastic. And everybody be happy.
Ellie?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you wanna do it in order to save a little bit of work for Carrie Ann, if she wants to send it to either me or Nate, and then one of us can forward it. I have everybody's email addresses. So if she wants to send me a copy, I can just forward it to everybody else.
And I think John
That
had
would save.
sent
work
me
for
everything.
her.
Yeah, you got everybody's. You got.
If she
budget.
has everybody's, then that's fine.
We can just cut it out, though.
If that's the way you want.
Let's work for you, Ellie. She's
What?
got it. She's got it.
Okay, that's fine. I just thought it would save a little time and effort, so.
Okay.
Do we have any other questions on the police budget? All right, Chief Porter, thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Fine. All right, next up, town clerk tax collector. Good evening, Ann.
Good evening, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Exactly, thank you.
Thanks for coming. Just find where you are on the budget.
Page one.
Page one.
Look at that, right up front.
That good or bad, I don't know.
It is
Well,
what.
we'll find out tonight.
The card you were dealt.
Tonight, I was glad
I
to
got no
follow up,
choice.
so we kind of see how that went. So I need to go line item by line item, or do you have questions, or how do you want to work this for?
Just run through it. If you think you want to expound on why something's higher or lower, go ahead and then we'll ask you questions.
This is what she's budgeting. Okay. Yeah, for some reason, I didn't grab that particular spot. Right. Okay, so. Did that change a lot? I'm looking at the town clerk tax collector, requested for deputy or assistant. It's not really-
Same as this
I
year
would-
budgeted for this
I
year.
would like that to be changed from assistant to deputy, because there is a big difference. I know it's just a housekeeping thing, but that really should say town clerk tax collect deputy. Okay, not assistant, because that means two different things. That's the very first.
In the
I-
account title.
Under account title.
Oh, yeah. So if we could, yeah, just, again, it's a housekeeping thing, but I'd
Is
like.
that a
to-
state regulated title?
Well,
or is that-
assistant and deputy have different roles. An assistant can't do as much as a deputy. A deputy can fully step in for a town clerk, whereas an assistant cannot.
But is there a deputy line that we can use for the state? I mean, this is a state. Do we know that?
We can name it whatever.
We can name it whatever we want.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But it would. Sorry, but it would make a difference. So if Ann's away and the person is qualified as a clerk, then the person can act as a clerk. But an assistant has to act under the jurisdiction and control of the. clerk.
No, I understand the title difference. I was just
Okay,
curious about
that's
the
it.
titles of.
That's okay. No, it's
Spreadsheet.
not, I don't think it's anything everybody really has discussed, but I know that there's just restrictions on assistants, whereas deputy has always been, as long as I've been part of this since early 2000s, the deputy could step in fully, okay, fully capable of doing that. Okay, so that's been adjusted a little bit, not really sure. It's not right across. Oh, what was it? No. So the deputy for the 2024, what does that say right here? Yeah, so it went,
And it was the same in
Oh, okay.
2023.
mine for some reason is different, so I'm having a hard time with the deputy. Okay, so that's just, yeah, a slight increase because of. Of course, it's
It's the same.
Same amount.
so we're good, okay, so her hours are basically the same as they've always been, Wednesday night, Saturday mornings, and coverage. Here and there for if I take a few days off or whatever, if she's available. Okay, and the salary change. It's just,
Slightly
what's
lower.
that, 3%?
No, so you're slightly lower than.
I'm sorry?
You're slightly lower this year than was budgeted for this. than for 2020.
Correct.
Right?
Question is that on purpose? I thought it was a mistake.
Which part?
So I took this year's and put the multiplier against the 3%. which would be 60, 65, 690.
But-
And in the proposal, it's only 61,000, so was that the intention?
I
Assume it
wasn't-
was not the intention of the department, was the intention of the board to do that.
I think it was selectmen, because I'm not getting paid at the 2023 amount. Okay,
Of course, if she's gonna have leftover money at the end.
so I was being paid, when I took over, I was being paid at the 22 amount.
So the 61 reflects your current pay status.
No. So, yes, the budgeted amount, I don't even know where those numbers actually fall with the changeover, because you would. Because Vicky was getting paid one spot and I was getting paid, I believe, just a little, I'm getting paid just a little bit less than that, so. But that, so is it at the 2022 numbers, Mike, does that fit for the,
Ann took over after the election.
It's complicated. You're
And,
you're right.
and Vicky was making more for the first 4 months.
Correct.
Than Ann started at, so that's why there's a difference.
Yeah, but my question is for the 2024 request, is that the number that we're gonna pay and for 2020?
Yes, because that 63 that you see for this year.
Yeah.
Is not all Ann's salary.
I
It was
understand.
Ann's and
That's
Vicky's,
okay,
so that's why it's
but
higher.
61 is the right number
So-
for her.
I believe so. I'd have to go back and double check it, but
Yeah, I pulled all the personnel budgeting out of the payroll system.
all right, and then, of course, again, like everything else, insurances and Medicare and retirement. That's all decided. Without anything to do with me on that, so let's see, you have what, mortgage search? So we are at
Same.
1,200, which was the same, which is pretty good. There's some question how that's gonna go moving forward, and you just never know. We have somebody who's been doing it for a long time. I'm not certain how much longer she's going to be, and I think she's been very reasonable. I haven't looked to really see what some of the increased costs could possibly be, so we'll just hope that we're gonna be able to stay right at that amount.
Basically, a title abstractor that we work with, is that what it is?
Donna Dugan that's doing all our title searches, yeah. Okay, training and education, you'll see a slight increase, only because like everything else.
so that's a 30% increase in, so.
Yeah, see, you're, yeah, yeah, let's go this way. That might help, yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. Which is interesting because, oops, we'll keep track of it. Oh, yeah, okay. Because I had. Well, I only had 20, was it? Anyways, prices of everything have gone up and. Because we're required and mandated by state law to stay educated. We found an increase since COVID. We didn't go, of course, for a year or two and the prices jumped. We were at Attitash this year and. Sadly, the prices were a little higher than we had anticipated, so we figured we better just push a little bit in there just so we know we've got it. Okay,
Like,
Was all the training completed before August or was there training after August?
after August, we just got back last week.
So it looks high, Stephen, but it's kind of 1,000, that kind of fall training.
Yeah, but they might have had to pay for it before she went.
I don't know.
You know what, before the end of August, Mike? I did
Yes.
put in for it, I think, didn't I, Carrie Ann? Some of that, I can't
Was-
remember now.
Was it
If I did it all.
before that?
Thought we were gonna pay the hotel after that.
I'd rather have the money in there than not, but, you know, because we're only gonna spend it if she gets the training, so. I mean, in the last 5 years, the most we spent is $1,300 in 2022.
We have-
And I get COVID and all that, but. So. You know, it does probably, I mean, we probably will end up the year higher than 1,000.
Mhm.
We talked about the same thing in the police department. I think with changes in new personnel, I think it's a good investment. I mean, if you look at every department, take all the training for every department, it's probably under 10 grand, so it's well worth doing
Well worth it and required, so.
it. And required.
Yeah. Combination. All right. Dog license expense.
That's offset by fees coming back in for dog license,
Well,
if we get paid.
therein lies the problem, and that'll be a separate issue we'll be talking about
Yep.
soon. So, you know, it's nice, we expend some money, but then we get some money in, and right now we're on the behind side on that.
So the expenses that the actual tags in,
The expense with the tags and any other things that we might have to do, we're sending out reminder letters in March, and then we're sending out, you know, with the police chief's help, the issue with Ryan. Hope Assist, we have to send out more letters.
how many unregistered dogs do we have in the state, in the town?
You know, it's funny you asked. Ran that report, and we're at 255 unregistered dogs, which is totally unacceptable. So Jack and I started talking a little bit. We'll be talking with the selectmen. I know it's not a big thing, but it is the law, and I guess
Is that state law? 'Cause
It's-
I don't like that law.
it's, well, guess what? And so, and none of us,
this law.
it's amazing how much work just dogs can take. Because if they're not paid, then I have to send the reminder. If that doesn't work,
Oh, I
then
know.
I can administer a civil
There's fines
forfeiture.
and fees coming towards your way.
And then there's civil forfeiture, and then there's certified letters, and then.
I didn't say I didn't comply with the law.
And that's the thing, I mean, all we can do is if nobody likes it, we go to the congressman. Like, sad to say, a little side note, there are towns that have considered registering cats.
Hmm.
My, so, yes, so we'll just stick with what we've got, and if it can change, great.
$6, is that what it is?
$6.50
nobody-
currently,
Yeah.
$6.50 currently for a spayed or neuter dog, all right? Then
Unless you're
for,
older 65.
then you get one dog at
They get the best in cahoots too, right? They send you all.
That's right.
Well, they're talking about raising those rates. Yeah.
yes.
Cover people that don't register.
But
We're working on it.
interesting, it could be $6, but if you don't do it, it's $1 a month penalty.
Until we get to
You
civil
can wait as
forfeiture.
long as you
That's-
want.
Then you take the dog.
Yes,
I'll
well,
pay my $2.
One of the reasons for this is not to jump on dogs, but it is supposed to make sure there's a centralized record of vaccinations for rabies. So if you run into a kid that's been bit and you have a tag on the dog, you can find out what the records say.
well, and if chief orders called to find a stray dog, if they get a tag and they got rabies, then it's easier to identify the owners, right?
Now, if we had all the vets that actually complied with the law and sent us the vaccination certificates, Mike would be absolutely right.
There was a safe
You
conversation
do
today.
have a veterinary hospital in town that refuses to do that.
Privacy.
Just so a side note, I stopped and spoke with this, with one of the people there today, the wife. And she said she had thought about it multiple times in nightmares, and so
Good for her.
we've tried to come up with a system. When they print one, they print two, one goes to the owner, one goes into a folder. And I offered to stop by every couple of weeks and pick up said folder, so I could bring it back, and so in 2 weeks I will call and see if we've started that.
They never leave the office. They can't deliver it.
Well, you know. I was
So
trying
you're
to,
gonna offer to do that
But
for
they
every
give it
vet
to the
office or
owner,
just
right? They give it
Yeah,
to the owner.
I think the law requires that they supply it, so I would not encourage you to do
Yeah,
that.
we're not encouraged to do it either.
so he said, she said when they're out delivering, you know, going to the post office or whatnot.
It's not that difficult.
But they give one to the owner, right?
Yes, they
Yeah,
have to.
it's not, so per the RSA,
They have to give one
they are
out.
Yeah,
required.
so doesn't the owner bring it to the, to the.
No, the
office?
vet clinic, the veterinarian hospital or vet is required by statute to provide that within 40 days to the town that the
Oh,
dog
to the
resides.
town also, oh.
So,
okay, I see.
There is a little side note to that,
Oh,
if they get the dog rabied on Monday and they come in on Tuesday to register the dog, I will not have the rabies certificate, then we can go back and say, you need to bring it with you if you want to register it that day.
That's what I always.
So, But, so there's a couple of things, so part of what we'll do is I plan to try to work up something to kind of educate a little bit more moving forward, so.
I think the point was, it could affect the revenue side of things. So while normally you might expect those to be relatively equal poise, they may not be.
Okay.
Because when I go into my system and ask for the dogs that I currently have, how many have not registered? for the
Yes,
previous
Kelly?
year,
Yeah, I just wanted to
Plus some
offer one thing
for the
about
ones that I have to receive.
having been bit twice by dogs. I think that it's an important thing. I mean, not that we're gonna decide this, but it is an important thing, I think, to have dogs registered because I got bit 2 different times. And it would have been a real serious problem if I had rabies shots because somebody didn't do their due diligence for their dogs. So luckily, no, I didn't have to do that, but having them registered makes it a lot easier tracking down. And the other thing is when I went to the hospital, They wanted to know who the owner of the dog was, so that they could send them the bill. So-
cheaper,
They have to take it, Phil, and they said, no, we're gonna send the guy that owns the dog.
Moving right along. Dues and subscriptions.
Okay.
Same amount.
We're already 250 there, and that's 250. Now, you don't have the interim fees. We have $1 from the previous, okay, so then 2023. It just isn't in the 2024.
Yeah,
requested.
they were added after last meeting, or they will be. I don't know
Oh,
if
okay,
they're
all
in
right,
this
just double
copy, so-
checking on that. So just again, to keep that one open
So we already spent
on dues and subscriptions.
670 this year already,
Yeah, I don't know how to answer that.
so is 250 sufficient?
Doesn't look like it, Karen.
Looking at the history though, going back, it does look like it is. It looks like this year is an abnormal year.
Uh-huh.
I don't know why it is, but.
I don't know either.
That's not some of the training and education might have got misclassified, is it?
I don't know. I can ask Vicky, we could go back and look and see what she had done previously. And go from there. Will we?
Well, we just, the concern is, like Steve says, this is a, big number, the 670 this year.
Is,
But if you would just look into what that was, and if it's gonna be a recurring, then you should let us know, and you should probably ask for more money.
Yeah, I mean, but my point was that if you go back and look at the
Right, I
previous
see.
5 years, it's a
Right.
relatively small number, well below the 250, so.
Yeah.
So it's something
Right,
new
it's
come
an
up
average.
that's gonna be recurring is my only issue.
all right, yep, I'm making a note right.
Would that be related to the actual election? Wasn't there an extra election? Was that?
No, it's gonna
No,
show up in the
no,
next
that's
account.
not-
That's something else, okay,
But it's a
okay,
good question.
okay.
And-
Okay.
All right. Yeah, office supplies.
Was there any special changes because of the change of tech of, Vicky to you?
No, because
Okay.
most of the time we just do, one of us is the member, like the town clerk's a member, and that kind of brings me in on some of that too, on the back. It did. Okay, office supplies. So what have we spent year to date?
Yeah.
584.
But that's just since August.
I'm not really sure. Why there's such a discrepancy for that one. Because we spent 584.70. Not that much less. But it's all over the place when you look at previous years. So I'm not sure how Vicky came up with that amount from before and why we went to that amount. I didn't make a note. Do you remember that, Carrie Ann, why we changed that a little bit?
Office supplies stayed the same. And it,
No, but
Do you buy specific forms for the task that generally last more than 1 year, a couple thousand of pre-printed forms or anything?
yeah, it would be stuff specific to tax collectors. You need
know,
like
I mean,
special paper.
those are right. So when you do the taxes and we do the water bills, that's special paper that has to be purchased.
Special envelope, too.
And, well, yeah, but I don't, does those come out of the town clerk or do those come out of the office itself, the whole office? I'm not sure of.
I'm not sure.
So I admit, whether that got allocated to the wrong spot, I don't know. I'll have to check. Okay. He said this was gonna be easy.
This is easy.
This is.
Wait until the next meeting.
Okay, and postage, good old postage. All right, what are we gonna do about that? We send out over 5,000, 6,000 tax bill. And here we'll send out, what is it, 800 plus water bills. Every vital record, we've got on and on and on when it comes to postage. Every single day. We send out our work, so all the registrations we do during the day and all the title applications we do. And any of the paperwork that goes with that has to be sent to the state on a daily basis, so. As postage rates go up. Let's hope we're still got enough budgeted.
I'll add,
Yeah, for that.
and we don't have anything expended in 2023 yet because we got a new machine and it is not set up to track the postage, so it's all getting lumped into the town hall postage right now.
Oh,
Until
so
we-
We talked about that last time, I recall, you just upgraded and it was like, wicked expensive to change the machine out.
Yeah, we have a new lease, we got a new machine, and it's not set up to split the postage out. I tried to pull the reports and it's not working.
And we don't have an expected number for 2022 either. What was the? We just don't.
And it
Probably the
all fell
same thing.
under Just the town government.
It just all fell under that one, okay, that's fine.
Mike,
So the total between the two accounts that are on postage, not counting what's in water and sewer. But the total right now is a total of 16,500. And the most we've ever spent in the past was 7. Go back and look down below. You're absolutely correct on the one that says tax collector and tax. When you look across on it, you're gonna see that what was spent there was what was spent there was in the past 5,555. They're all roughly $5,000. Okay. And so that's probably why the 6,000 is plopped in there under tax collector. But then if you go down below where it's under the general government. I don't know what the page numbers are from what I'm doing.
4.
Yeah, like, okay, so page 4, look under general government, you're gonna see how much is being budgeted there, and it's 10,500, I think, I'm not looking at it. 15, okay, so you got 15,000 there, and look at what it's been in the past, and it isn't that much.
Yeah, I had a problem with that too.
So
Yeah,
my
the machine-
point is that you have a total then of 21,000 going in for postage.
Yeah.
And what's been in the past has been 2 or 3.
Did we,
What's the cost of the machine? Because there's a note on that, Mike, under the general government, it says.
I asked
cost of
about it
the
last
machine.
time, but I don't remember that there was an answer, how much the machine was and how much the maintenance cost is, if there's a monthly maintenance cost.
there is in the lease payment, everything's going to that postage line in the general government, and that includes the $1,000 every 2 months, I have to check. And then we pay the postage through that company. And whatever maintenance fee, it's all in the same monthly bill.
So it was $1,000 every 2 months, you said?
Yeah, I have to go check the lease.
6,000 a year for the lease of the machine.
Yeah, we don't pay it every month.
And I understand,
Yeah.
but it's annually it's 6,000 for the lease of it.
I'll have to check. I don't know off the top of my head.
And what was the number before that, just out of curiosity?
I don't know that we were still paying the lease. I don't know how old the old
Yeah.
machine was.
so you lease it until it's paid and then. Is it like a lease to own there?
I believe so. I have to read the lease.
So on the general government, it looks like we're paying about 6,000 for the leasing of the machine and we want another 9,000 for postage. Versus
For general
in the
government.
past, we had roughly 7,000. Now we're going up to 9.
Yeah, postage went up to 63 cents a letter
Yeah,
for
no,
regular.
trying to find out where the money is adding up, how it ends up.
I think you've clarified it, all of you. I think it's a combination of a lease, because I don't think we had a lease at the tail end of the other one.
Yeah, that's what you said.
And so that's part of it, and that works out to 500 is 6,000 a year. And postage is going up, so that also takes part of it, and even if it's a machine, it's gonna have an increase in postage. So I'm satisfied.
Okay.
All right. Let's see, moving on to the elections.
Yeah. Well, those are support. Yeah, those are just to keep those, oh, the software support, yeah. That price is, gonna go a little bit higher, so we have no choice but to make sure we give us enough money
All right.
Okay.
Well,
towards that.
thank you, Joanne. I don't see Dale Barney here.
Well, we do elections.
you know,
we just
Dan's
did.
supposed to do the election part too.
Oh, is that what we did?
I was hoping Dale would be here, but.
Oh, no, I know. That's what
Darn.
Oh, we did?
It's right underneath.
We did?
maybe we did.
I didn't think we
We
did.
just go to-
I didn't think we did election. Let's do election.
Under election.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest things you're gonna see right off the bat is the money set aside. Right, for the new voting machine. Oh, no, for 4 elections, excuse me.
Yep.
Got 4 elections coming up, okay? And fortunately, that costs us money.
But did it cost more money?
Say that again?
If you look at 2020
Right.
and 2024, it's an increase for some reason, so I was just curious what caused the increase.
Well, 2020 when there were 4 elections in
Is it because
2020.
of all the warrant articles that we write?
No, it's the same.
No, I don't
That's
know.
why it's so-
Last 3,000 more.
Well, it's interesting, Mike, because 2020 was just the 4 elections, right? That was 5,000, but in 2022, we spent 5,900 and we only had. You have the same 4 elections?
No,
No.
well,
2020 we did.
you don't have the statewide primary. that You only get every 4 years.
Yeah.
So statewide is every
2020
2
was the
years.
Right.
So
2020 is a comparison.
So that's a $3,000 increase.
Yeah, but my point is in 2022, when we didn't have 4, we only had 2.
We had 3.
3, we had
3, all right, we spent 5,900.
Yeah.
So we spent more on 3 in 2022 than we did on 4 in 2020. So there's something going on here. I don't know what it is, but it looks like.
But
the cost of
it's an
money-
outlier, Sal. I mean, if you've
Okay.
got, if the other ones are reasonably with the same amount. If somebody's more, we can go back in and look and see what the
Yeah.
actual expense was, but it's an outlier. If you
Okay.
had like half of them were 6,000, half of them 3, I mean,
So you think the 8,000 is a little high?
I think it's high by a grand,
Okay.
but we're not doing that tonight. I did highlight it.
It's meals and services.
correct. So when you have
Better
elections,
meals in 2020.
when you have elections, the people there get fed. You know, like the supervisors, a checklist and ballot clerks and so on.
Gotcha.
Okay, because they are all there, they're there for hours. So that's, yeah, that had to increase because of everything else.
Have meals for the budget. committee,
We're working on
If
that.
you stay here for
We're
12
working on
hours,
that.
if you stay here for 15 hours doing it, yes,
We're working.
it will bring you. Right.
Have meetings during my supper time.
There you go.
Moving on. Any question about the meals? Voting machine, so that's, we have to replace the voting machine.
So the state has approved 2 different models that Vicky and I both went down to see at the state. Their demonstrations a couple months ago, and they've been approved. The 3 we saw, they approved 2 of them. And we're not exactly sure when they're gonna roll out. So they may roll out this year, so I had to put it in the budget. Okay, if they don't, I'll encumber the money the end of the year, so we have it already in the, if the budget passes, we already have it for 2025. But we don't have any dates, we don't know the primary date, so
Did they settle it on a particular one?
there's a
particular
couple
vendor?
different ones out there, so I'm waiting to see if they just say, hey, you can pick whatever one you want. That's great, the one we liked, of course, was probably the more expensive one, is just. There's a nonprofit company that's gone out and they're totally transparent, all their bookkeeping and so on's online. It's, you know, the person literally carries like 4 credit card sized cards around their neck. And they have to use those to start the machine. We have a thumb drive that actually stores a picture of every ballot that goes through the machine.
So it's still bubble ballots going through a.
It is, but it takes a slight bit longer for
It's-
that.
it's- In relative sense, I think it's a lot longer, and when you've got
Yeah,
thousands and.
I think
thousands
it
of
may take like 3 seconds. I can't remember what it was for that particular ballot machine.
Yeah.
For one to go through, but it is taking a whole picture of it. And then later on, you can take that thumb drive out and go along with a laptop. It's all part of the package. Put that thumb drive in, so for every handwritten.
Yeah.
Written in, you actually have a picture of that and you could, so that's one of the options. So it's somewhere between 6,000 and 7,000 for the cost of the machine.
And that's a one machine. So there might be a line after voting but.
Well, we currently have two machines,
We currently have two, one is a backup to the other.
which.
I
we
don't know how
only
much
used
longer
last
we'll
year.
be using those. Right, we grabbed the other one because,
So we wanna put maybe on a brand new machine, I mean, is there any reason why we wouldn't wanna have a backup in case, because otherwise you go manual completely, so. So I mean, the potential is 14,000 for, to replace what we have, correct?
if we do that, but we ran with one big machine for many years.
Okay.
Okay, for many years. I mean, the machines we had, the first one goes back and maybe even pre-2000. Okay, so it was definitely time for, these are, you know, there's no internet with these, there's no Bluetooth, there's nothing that could be hacked.
Yeah.
Through that, but anyways, the point is, we guys put out with one. And then,
So I think I guess my concern would be that maybe we keep that dollar amount in there for 2 years in a row, so we can have the ability to buy two and have the backup, so. And not try to buy them both in the first year, but
if that's
Again, I
something
just-
that you wanna do, we can think.
Well, I don't think it's a bad idea. I've had two in Walpole and the monitor up there, and,
That's nice.
you know, you go through a very rigorous pre-test. You put each ballot in 4 times,
Yeah.
hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them,
Mhm.
pre-marked to make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do. That alone takes 3 or 4 hours. If these new machines take 7 times longer to process each one, it's gonna be a long day for voting. It's not.
Yeah, so the
not so
primary,
much on a town vote, but I mean, certainly on a national vote.
the
it's gonna be-
primary is gonna be crazy, and we know the general election will be crazy.
Right,
It'll
because then
take
you
all
have
of our-
school ballots too. So you got.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that's what's extra ballots to that way.
Yeah, so it's a lot of work, but
On, you may already have double the money. Because, and you said that there is a possibility that the grant would come through this year. And again, if the grant comes through, and you said you're gonna encumber it if it came through. So if you've got money that comes through in a grant that you can vote to accept, and then you encumber it for the machine, and you still have 7,000 next year, you get 2 machines.
I don't, did you say there was grant money for the machine?
I don't think there's any money for the
I don't think so.
machine.
Well, I thought it was grant.
No,
I know we bought that.
State's not offering any help so far.
No, yeah.
Remember what you were hoping?
Regarding the HAVA funds,
Hmm,
yeah, if I may.
okay.
When Congress passed, the HAVA law, the Helping America Vote. There was an amount of money that was designated for each state. The purpose of which was supposed to purchase voting machines. The money is sitting in the Secretary of State's account. And there are sufficient funds to fund this. Secretary of State has chosen not to do that. He has chosen to keep the money and require the towns to figure it out on their own. So one of the things is that there are 2 options. One is for the towns to get on Secretary of State Scanlon and say, hey, this money was intended for this purpose. The second is for us to contact Senator Shaheen and Hassan, and there is legislation in Congress now to provide additional funding to help offset the cost to the towns for. The only thing, Stephen, I would say is part of the reason I'm sure the town chose to purchase a second machine was, as Ann was saying, these current machines in some cases are 30 years old. They're not producing parts for them anymore. And so if they go down, you don't have a second machine to scavenge, you're out of luck. You'll be doing manual handling.
Right.
So I'm not sure, it's probably a good idea to purchase 2 machines, but I'm just saying, one of the things the town could be doing, for example, the select board could be doing is letting the senators, letting our congressional delegation know it would, it would really be helpful, if Congress would pass that appropriation. But for this year, and these purposes, we got 7,000 for a machine. Personally, I'm not sure we should add another 7,000, or we're trying to actually go the other way on budgets, but that's just my thought, but we're not, again, like Mike said, we're not doing that tonight, but that will get us a machine.
That'll get us a machine.
And I don't have anything that the state's gonna make these decision before the third quarter of 24 anyway. That's not my sense from the,
That's what, yeah,
so I think you're safe.
Yep.
So we're gonna be using the old machines, is what we're saying,
Yes,
this year, probably.
right.
In the meantime, we could try to get the money out of the Secretary of State.
You're still gonna have to.
That's good.
You still have to grow.
You guys
budget,
do right
you
to
know,
the
so.
app.
That's a good.
so after that, it's just the software, yeah, so you've got to have them maintained, so LHS currently comes in and they go through the machines and so on, and they just did that. So we have to pay for that and election advertising. You know, well, we'll probably have to put up, if we change locations, that's what I've been hoping for and working on with help. Trying to see if we could get that to happen. We've been after over months working on that.
Where to?
So,
Can't really say yet.
so if it happens, we're gonna have to
Town
do
hall.
some. Where would
Yeah,
they can't quite say yet.
They use the
But if-
schools, I grew up, you just went to the school.
I know. I mean, that, right, unfortunately, when people wanted, we really talked about this last spring, it was too late, the
Yeah.
calendars were set, but anyways, the hopes are we have a new location. Along with that, we have to advertise to Help America Vote Act, we've got to make sure we cover our bases, so we may have to, purchase some posters or do something different to maybe rent a sign that's lit or something to, so put some money in there to help us. For that, there.
Well, that's a good point. We. To the extent that we can find a new location, we put it in the newsletter probably almost every week for.
We sure would,
time.
yeah,
Make sure
sure
people
would.
know where to go.
and then we'll need some physical stuff because.
I mean, the sign at the old place to say you gotta go.
Well, and that's where the signage right up front here will come in handy because we can go ahead and put right on there. Sign out here too. That's what I mean, sign right out, over there, sorry, sign right out here.
Right out here too.
We have changed the location 3 times.
Yeah, we've been used to do it at the fairgrounds.
Yeah. Before that, it was in the school.
We're trying, but it'd be nice if we had our own building that said, hey, this is part of what it's for. But anyway. So does that,
And now we need a building.
I know.
That was quick. Send it to 300.
we stuck that right in.
Thank you, man.
Thank you.
It's only a $2 million building. So.
Oh, well, we should really do
Oh my,
that. We need to do a lot of work, so we raised 2 million.
Be a lot of cooking spaghetti.
Well, there is $1 million grant.
Town meeting, there's a,
Yeah, I don't know.
so
We'll do it.
Uh,
Yeah.
you wanna do it? Ken?
Page 1, the moderator, right?
Oh, meeting, okay. Yep, okay. On page. Page 1, right, where it's an empty page.
Good,
Yeah.
yeah, you can figure that out.
It looks like it's been. A little bit of an increase this year, that an increase in the stipend salary.
Yeah,
3% or whatever.
I applied the 2.8% to every person.
Okay,
Anybody have any questions on meetings?
nothing else changed really.
Nobody cares.
Yep, all right,
Planning board.
John. Yep. You're up.
So
What page?
this is,
Page 3, planning board.
I guess it's a bit of a mess is the best way to describe this. Because you've got historically, the planning board had a very small budget. And now we're looking at lumping in, the biggest thing is legal fee. And a lot of that is decisions the selectmen make to give a person a break on their taxes.
We touched on that the last meeting about how the legal fees are, but the planning board, the subdivision applications, the select then do the payments.
We do incur some legal fees, and I would say it would be reasonable that the planning board might incur $2,000 in 2024. And that comes about for reviewing warrant articles, or you got an ordinance that's coming up and you ask the attorney, are we doing it the right way? And we may have some kind of a challenge that an applicant complains about something we're doing, that's very rare, but it could happen. So I think, my guess is 2,000 is a reasonable number for the planning board for legal, if you want to show that. If you want to show all of the legal fees that are planning related, which is really granted by the selectmen, that's fine with me. You just put another account in there. We're not limited in the number of lines we can have. We could have a line that says the planning board caused it, another line that says the select board caused it. So
I feel like we resolved that last meeting, did we not?
Yep.
Under
We
general
were-
government?
We were gonna move, well, we were gonna put it back into the legal lines, the 4153, and then create, make a whole bunch of subgroups.
I
Of
did
legal.
make that change last week based on.
And then, so what I'm hearing John say is he would like 2,000 for the planning board in that breakout.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
So this 36,000
Goes away.
goes away.
Well,
Um,
because
moved.
it gets
Yeah,
moved.
yeah,
it doesn't go-
yeah. Doesn't
I
go
wish.
away. I guess we could make it go away. but-
Oh, we could.
Stop suing dog owners.
I don't know, everything else, no maintenance, no nothing. Nothing.
The printing line is kind of an obsolete line. We don't go out and give the printer anything, and the printer doesn't send us a bill, so. Today, everything rolls off a copier somewhere, and so I'm not sure we need that line anymore for printing. If we ever had to do something, we could easily stick it in a miscellaneous line, so maybe it's time to retire that printing line.
So all three of those would stay at zeros and not go to ones.
What's that?
The
Miscellaneous.
lines, administrative support would be a zero, legal fees would be a zero, printing would be a zero. You would not put a 1 in for printing
Right, yeah.
or postage.
I'm saying, and eventually her plan is, Scary Ann's plan is to, all the zero lines to retire them, make them go away, when she goes to her new accounting system.
Yeah, and there are, and same thing is true on the miscellaneous, that goes to a zero, not a 1.
Well, in the miscellaneous, I think we need a place to house things, so it's probably reasonable to have miscellaneous accounts, but let me give you what we'd like to use miscellaneous for this year, but I'll get to that. The next line is postage. At 400 is a number there that's perhaps a reasonable number. We don't know what the meter is running, but we do run some portion of a good bill, nothing like the tax collector cranks out. But this year, the select board has started a committee, which is the Economic Development Committee. And that committee is, membership is largely the planning board membership, so the same members are on the planning board. And the planning board members have decided that it would be good as part of this to address the economic development portion, to update the master plan. And if we update the master plan, we want to do some surveys of the community. What do you care about? Send out a survey and say, you like this, you want to do this? And that means mailings. So mailings is extra money. So we're thinking of in the order of something like $2,200 for 2024 to support survey mailing. Then moving on to books and publications.
Would that 2,200 go up under postage then?
Yeah, 2,200 for postage. Which would support mailings for a survey for the master plan. Before you write the master plan, you want to know what the community thinks. And then under books and publications, 300 is probably more than we need. That probably can be brought down to 100.
When was the last time we did a master plan?
2019.
Okay.
But it's more a case of, we have a master plan. The master plan we have now is a plan that says, here's the facts. Here's the good news, here's the bad news. And the Economic Development Committee would like to have a master plan that says, here's the good news. We're not gonna tell you about the bad news. So a new master plan would be more of a marketing thing. And a lot of good photographs, a lot of PR, and push the town. And in order to do that, we get to the miscellaneous account, and to hire a photographer, get a designer, an art designer going. We're talking about $5,000 in 2024 to get some of that fancy artwork and some of the good photography in place. And then for Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission. selectmen-
$5,000?
What's that?
He's adding it.
Oh, you want to add it?
Yeah, right.
This is a new ask.
So
New ask,
it's the
okay.
miscellaneous account, that's the only account I saw where it would fit. We could rename the account.
Advertising or something.
I'm not sure it's that, well,
So you want to
Yeah.
add $5,000?
yeah, it could be, we could call it advertising. It's the support development of the master plan.
How about communications? Is that big enough?
You can call it whatever you want.
Motion, communications.
It's
Generic. Yeah, so are you planning on doing a master plan like with regional planning to guide it and help?
Yes, and that's the next line. Upper Valley Lake Sunapee
Oh, okay.
Regional Planning Commission.
Yeah.
The selectmen have proposed, I assume continuing that for another year, and this year was our first year, and that was $5,900. We're proposing cranking that up to $10,900, so we get Upper Valley Lake Sunapee Regional Planning Commission active in participating in our development of the master plan.
The 5,900 is a basic membership.
That's the
fee?
Yeah,
basic membership. rate.
Membership. And then another 5,000 to get them to really work with us. 5,900 gets them to answer the phone, but they don't do much work. You want work, you gotta pay.
That is a lot.
You're proposing $12,000.
It's like, here's what go up between that and the communications piece. And I'm
Yeah,
not
we're
saying we
proposing-
don't need a need. We have a need, but really, a 16,000, go from 0 to 16. You got 10,900.
If you look at the planning board the master plan related costs, it should be about 11,500. I have to run the numbers again. I think it's about 11,500. But yeah, we're in that neighborhood. We're over 10 grand, we're under 15 grand for getting the master plan going. Could it be rolled to next year? Could we do a little less here? Sure. That's, this is a thrust that came from the select board and, the master plan doesn't have to be done this quick. But if
So you could, if,
If you want economic development, if you want to do this, then you gotta start spending money.
no, I understand that, but in a year where we already are proposing a budget that we are not. Like tonight, we've added a lot of money to this budget.
Yeah.
We're trying to go the other
Yeah,
direction.
we're gonna
so
have
that
to
we can
decide
get the-
where to cut.
Right.
Are we gonna cut the grader?
But
You know,
I
what
guess
are
my
we gonna
question
cut?
is, it sounds like that. This is more, we
This is
would
the
like to
request.
do this, we could do it. If we couldn't do it this year, it could be done
Yeah.
next year.
So when do you want the economic development to happen? You want it to happen soon or you want it to happen later?
I don't have an opinion on that,
Right.
just talking about numbers here.
Right. And then for advertising, the state law has changed. The state law used to force us to use a lot of newspaper advertising. And that's changed. We can stick things on the website and that counts as advertising. So we think we can drop the 300 down to $75. There are a few cases where we're required by law to use the newspaper.
Yes, Mike.
I need to pull Tom. I did not have a chance to read the draft. Is this what is in the draft you sent us?
The economic development draft, no.
Yeah, that's what.
No, I mean, they are related, but they're really two separate initiatives, so. There is the master plan update. We haven't had a survey since 2013. The last master plan update was 2019, so we're, coming up on 5 years. The idea is, although some members of the Economic Development Committee are also on the planning board, it's not completely, Sal's on the Economic Development Committee, Mike Sampson's on the Economic Development Committee, Tom Kalinsky is on, so it's not completely the planning board. But obviously, they're related issues in terms of the planning board itself and the Economic Development Committee, which is also
I've sent in a request for discrete funds for the Economic Development Committee that are specifically aimed at, things like some signs for parking, banners to promote the farmers, farmers market, et cetera. I will also say that in terms of the specifics related to the master plan update, while it is true, we can postpone it for as long as we want. I do think that it is a relatively small investment, and I recognize that the budget, there are a lot of small and larger investments that the town needs to make. But we are looking at trying to promote the town with the master plan and the Economic Development Committee in a way that hopefully draws new investment into the community. The master plan budget that we're talking about for 2024 at 11.5, the comparison is for basically the same kind of work. Enfield spent $60,000. I believe it was last year. So we're trying to cut corners everywhere we can and do a lot of volunteer work to compare with consulting, hired consultants that Enfield did. And that's, but they're slightly different. The economic development proposal that I sent that Mike's referring to, I think was about
3,500.
3,600, something.
And that'll come, we'll have to come before this group at some point in time with that.
Yeah, I just sent that out to the committee today.
We have.
Question about, so does it all start with a survey? Of the town?
Yeah, essentially, so when we sat down, there's a subcommittee of the planning board that's looking at the master plan work. And that subcommittee sat down with Megan Butts, who's the executive director of the Upper Valley Lake Sonnefield, and Tim Josephson, who is obviously a Canaan resident, but also serves with the RPC. And we talked through what would it take. The initial numbers they gave us were substantially higher than the 5,000 we talked about, and essentially what we're proposing with this money is some limited assistance in terms of developing an initial questionnaire, and then once we've completed the questionnaire and given residents time to answer it, through online questions, through hard copies that are distributed around town. Their help in helping us analyze the results. And then finally, out of that, we think there would be a series of public meetings, with each one maybe focused in a different area, like transportation, like, conservation, whatever. But the initial public meeting that the Upper Valley Lake Sonnefield folks would also help us with, in terms of just logistics and planning, would be focused mainly on providing information about the results of the survey and getting feedback in terms of, how people felt about it.
So the survey is a major part of
The survey, I think,
processing.
the survey is a critical part. I think it's hard to go forward with a master plan update without having done the survey of the community, to get a sense of where do they think we are and where do they want to go.
Oh, thank you.
I apologize to my friends on the Economic Development Committee. We struggled for several meetings to come up with a number we thought was affordable to create projects that actually would help stimulate economic development in the near term. And frankly, the $3,500, I think, the lowest you wouldn't even bother if it was less than $2,500 as far as I'm concerned. But there are some really good ideas of what could be done quickly that would stimulate economic development. The planning for economic development in a macro concept as opposed to the specifics of the micro plans we got is 15,900. That's a lot of money. with a budget that's at least $400,000 higher than it was last year. That's a lot of money. You asked a question about survey versus, we have this line that says communication. I think we need to update the master plan. But I think if I were looking at this at first blush, which it is, I would say, well, get rid of the communication, get rid of all the public relations until the following year. You know, spend the year doing the master plan. Because it's a one-shot deal. Well, it's not. 5,000 is a one-shot deal. The other 5,900 is some membership fees. So that won't go away. But it does mean in the following year, rather than having 15,900 this year. Having 15,900 this year, you would have 10,900. And then next year you would have 59,000 for the membership fee and 5,000 for communication. And it will at least say 5,000, which is a third of the $15,000 increase. So that's my personal belief, but we're not doing that tonight. It's just, it's in it. It's marked.
The town of Harrisville spent 31,000 on a real master plan. I mean, doesn't sound like you're talking about a typical all-encompassing master plan, because 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 isn't going to even get you close.
This is only a start. This is the 2024. This doesn't look at what you need in 2025.
I know, but
What,
maybe it's terminology.
there were a lot of times to spend a lot more money. Enfield spent something like $20,000, I think it was, to do a grocery store study. Okay, did they get a grocery store? No. Is their tax base bigger? Yes, 50% bigger. So they got money that they can use to do that.
Yeah.
Unless we try to solve these problems in some type of creative fashion where we're not spending god awful amounts of money. I don't see us doing it, because you're gonna be telling people, okay, do you want to buy a new grader? I think everybody's convinced the grader's shot. I'm convinced the grader's shot. So the question is, when you see $1.5 million in leases that are gonna be approved, and then you go back over into what people consider less important. I don't. I think it is important. But I also think you gotta show some restraint in terms of how much you're gonna go up. I think it's important to go up on education and training for new employees. A lot of these things are important, and we increased some of them tonight. But that is a large amount of money. How much did you spend 5 years ago? I mean, it was
Well,
mostly Chuck.
The plan that was done in 2019 was all volunteer labor.
Exactly.
It didn't cost the town
And I
anything
don't
except
think
for
you
the
ought to try.
mailings. We did do mailings.
Okay, but I don't think you ought to try to do a volunteers and filling out volunteers. So I think it is important to do it, but do it as inexpensively as you can. And I can't say, I thought we should have been a member of the Regional Planning Commission ever since I came here. It provides services that nobody else can provide at a reasonable cost. I've been in favor of it. I was never successful convincing the board to do it. So I think that that's a really important move. On the communication side, I think there's a and the other part of the Upper Valley side, there may be things we can do to offset some of that cost. But I got it marked for discussion and feel strongly enough about it. I'm discussing it right now. I'd least like you to think about it. I think the statement you said, we've added a lot of money. If we were starting 400,000 in the hole. We can't keep doing this.
Right, so what we've got now is you've got an ask, we'll just put the ask
Yeah,
in
yeah,
for the
right.
time being.
It's the asking price.
And we'll have, eventually we'll figure out what the priorities are and go from there.
There's a few years you pay more than the asking price when you buy a car, but not most often.
I get it, but we got a lot of asks, John, so
But, yeah,
we're gonna
And I
have
got
to deal
one-
with all the asks.
and
So,
one more small cheap item.
Yeah.
And that is Carrie Ann and I have been talking about, we get bills from the Grafton County Register of Deeds. And she's currently sticking them with the tax collector, I think. And some of that is actually planning board money, so if she wants to move a couple of $100 to the planning board, then we gotta obviously jack up our budget. But then it can stay where it is now, or it can come partially to me, I don't care.
I don't have any preference on that. Whatever you think best, Carrie Ann.
Do we have any town employee that will go on to? the
You know where to find it.
Download stuff, or is that all done through Thailand?
No, yeah, well, we have access to the register of deeds, anybody can go on the registry.
You know, I understand that, but you gotta pay for
printing,
Yeah, if you want to download the stuff.
well,
And then some of them also have, some of the registries. have-
screenshot works great.
Some of them have like a fee,
Yeah,
just a subscription fee,
Yeah.
addition.
we don't use that.
Yeah.
We just use screenshots.
So what the fees from the registry?
Well,
they?
we send them a subdivision. And it's this giant sheet of paper. And you say, record it. And they say, great, here's your bill.
Oh, okay. So you don't pay for it when you send it, they bill you afterwards?
Yeah, right. And the same thing with the tax collector. She duns a lot of people. Puts them on a tax lien on the house. Sends a thing to the registry sends the bill back.
All right.
Sounds reasonable.
Well, do we have, the only other thing is other business, and I know Sal wanted to mention something.
There are two things, we touched on them a little bit, the Economic Development Committee is gonna be making a new ask for a new line item somewhere in here. We have a meeting scheduled for this week, we're gonna hopefully try to finalize that. Along with mission statement that we're gonna get present to the select board to have them approve it, and if all that goes well, we'll show up. And one of the meetings coming down the road, I don't know exactly which one, but to put that ask in. On Tuesday night, the select board meeting. The town administrator, Ed Morris from Enfield, came and made a presentation to the select board. There was something called the Mascoma Youth Sports League, which basically services, and you can jump in anytime, Steve. Youth between K through 6th grade, and they cover basically 4 sports. It was all volunteer kind of thing. And they were having difficulty maintaining volunteers. There was a lot of volunteer hours. The administrative burden was getting to be too much for them, is what my take was. So Airfield has stepped up and said that they would be willing to take over all of the administrative functions and hopefully leave the volunteer board in place to continue to run the programs, which would be a good thing, because once you start mixing volunteer programs like that with town money, it gets a little funky in my mind. Control issues and where the money goes, well, I'm not so sure of that, but in any event, they've asked to have Canaan participate in this to the tune of $6,500 a year to basically provide, sports.
Basically splitting the cost of their rec director that, and it's a proportion out based on how many students from Canaan participate in the program right now. I think it was 35% of the students are participating, are coming from Canaan, 55 or 60 are coming from Enfield. Grafton has a few, so it's based on the school district, sort of, that's where it draws from. So that was the split, and it was basically, they took the time that the rec director would be giving up to this program specifically, and then try to split it out to what the cost was. It's not his whole salary, but it's just the percentage of time he would be putting towards it, so. The select board was in favor of it if it works out. Just as we do have money, I believe, in the rec department right now that not to cover that full cost, but we have, that's where it would be designated from, so.
And so he's volunteered to come and present to this committee on November 2nd. So, we're gonna have him show up. I'm gonna try and get him to send off, this little slideshow that he had, PowerPoint presentation. So you can all see that ahead of time. And we'll get him on the agenda.
Yeah, a couple of questions I didn't ask him, and Sal and I were actually, if Grafton and Dorchester decide not to participate, that percentage changes with the coverage and how that would affect us. So those are questions that we should be asking him when he comes in.
Did you discuss about like raising the fee for participation?
So right now, out of town, so Canaan students can participate, they pay an out of town higher rate than the Enfield students do. That would be levelized, so everybody, all students pay the same amount, all kids pay the same amount, so.
I apologize in advance, but they were so willing to cooperate and compromise with us on the school tax formula. I think we should really go ahead with theirs. I apologize in advance.
I don't know about that. That sounds.
The only. You got two separate needs. First of all, I think we have worked in the past for like 4 years with Katie and other people to try to integrate Mascomia sports leagues with recreation. Because we rely on volunteers and you can't get people to volunteer for a recreation commission, never mind. Put in, 10 times as many hours to run the leagues. It's a lot of leagues. Is it a good thing? Absolutely a good thing. All you gotta do is go over and look at the ball field and give you an idea. So it's a great idea. It's also a great idea to do other things like the after-school program, the swim program, adult recreation, all those other things that has to come out now out of the non-lapsing recreation account where the revenues go in primarily from the after-school program funding. I think it does need to have some support for some person that's paid to manage. I would point out that the numbers we've been batting around for the last 5 years are somewhere between $10,000 and $20,000. And the total price tag of the Enfield Recreation Director, including benefits, is $92,000. So again, try to find a creative way of fixing things, support it. But make sure you got enough money in the recreation budget so that you can at least pay out of town funds. Part of the salary of a local recreation director that has to do all those other programs. There's a significant difference between team sports and general sports and other more individualistic activities. I think we need both. That's all.
Anything else? I'm gonna take a motion.
Yes, are we under other business right now?
Yeah, you wanna raise something?
Yeah, so I got a couple of questions. Did any information on the lease deal on all the equipment, is that for the highway or?
I've seen nothing brought before us
No.
on that, so. It needs to be if we're gonna talk about it, discuss it, so I guess I'll leave that to the select board.
It'll be coming with the highway. and that.
Highway, yeah. So.
That's next month, next meeting, highway department's next meeting.
I don't want to be offensive, but I did put in a formal request for information that the sheets that have been circulated so far. And any other sheets that have gone to as work documents to the CIP committee. I'm a little concerned, and other people here on the committee, Sal, you're on. But I'm a little concerned when the CIP committee made a decision not to allow people like me to harass people with questions during the meeting, but to wait until the end of the meeting. I'm more concerned when I put the original request into Claude by telephone 2 months ago, and I still haven't seen a document from the CIP committee. The one I have is the one Sal gave. But it lacks information on the issues that you're asking about. There's a lot of talk, there are moving parts, there's warranties, there's what's included with the warranties, lengths of the warranty, trade-in values at the end, or trade-in credits that you get back at the end, even though it's not a lease purchase, it's a lease. And how does that work? What's the interest rate gonna be? So all that stuff is part of that, and I've only been to one meeting, and I'm sure they've got all this information, but if they have it, then I'd like to see what they've been working on.
That made two of us.
Yeah, I know. I'm disappointed. Claude's been a hard worker.
Yeah.
Years and years and years. And I'm just surprised by this attitude.
Hopefully we'll see it all next Wednesday. Wednesday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever.
Oh, CIP's Tuesday.
Mark, did you have another question?
Yes. I was wondering if the committee would be in favor of having a site visit for checking out the equipment. And looking at did we buy some new trucks here not too long ago?
I think to answer your question in one context, Guy and you have put together a status of all the equipment that we currently own. They're working on it. They told me that they're gonna have it finalized relatively soon. There's been some drafts of it. They've been fine tuning it. So when that becomes available, that's gonna become available to everybody in town. It's not just gonna be to us, but that's gonna be a document that everybody can see. Okay, so that's gonna come relatively soon. And that'll give us a starting point to have a discussion about whether or not we need a new grader or we need a new shed wheeler or whatever. So we'll have their opinion of it. It's gonna include a lot of other information, right? It's gonna have things like what the annual maintenance costs are, what we're spending on, equipment and this kind of stuff to keep the fleet running.
I was just thinking that if the committee could get out and look at it, everybody would have a first on hands thing of what each piece of equipment would look like.
Yeah, I don't think you'd have any problem if you tried to set up a meeting, with them, just go do it. I'm sure they'll be happy to wander around with you.
We buy equipment every year, so some of the stuff is new.
I'm sure it is.
You know, what we got in Pelham and
Really, last second. I think we gotta get the paperwork in, take a look at it. I think it's a good idea to get on and look at the equipment. I think, lifespan is a good idea. There's a lot of things that need to be done. My problem is this, the report on the schedule is December. We gotta have everything finalized for warrant articles in January. So we got like 4 or 5 weeks to put that one to bed, as well as the final budget. I'm afraid that what inevitably will happen is we will rush and just put together whatever is the quickest way to put it on, out and let the voters decide. And I personally have no one to blame except myself. I did not go to the other CIP committee meetings, so I really don't know. But I think it would be a mistake for us to act in an expeditious way to get something up before the voters without understanding. So it's just caution, and I think I said at the first meeting, I think you better plan on scheduling one more meeting somewhere.
Yeah, we have that swing day that's on there at the
Yeah.
end of December. It sounds like we'll be using it, so.
Should we
Yeah.
change the schedule for the next meeting to be just highway only?
We gotta get the stuff, ultimately, John, from CIP.
That's the source. I got a feeling after talking with Claude that he's still somewhat in the dark. He's not getting the stuff from highway.
Then it's not a proposal.
Is that? No. And that may be true. Okay. I personally have deep concerns. I heard Ed Morris's comments. I also picked up on words that other people may not have picked up. Yes, it's always a good idea to pay cash. It's always the cheapest, but sometimes can't do that. Yes, you have to do it because you have no money. That's not true. And worse yet, one of the comments I heard was, well, we gotta keep the same amount of money in there we had last year for all of the funding of the capital reserves, and we gotta go up whatever the debt service is on $1 million to $1.5 million. And that doesn't count the ambulance that they wanted to buy. So I'm really concerned about this whole aspect of the budget. I think I could be persuaded that a lease is the correct way to go. But I personally think that you've got to look at all the other things I suggested need to be looked at, and there's about 4 or 5 others, but I do have a list. I just want to have a starting point. I want to see the CIP committee come out with anything at this point, and what the basis is. And it isn't going to be good enough for the budget committee just to hand out the sheet that I usually hand up. You're going to have the sheet, and you're going to have the backup. Paving is a classic case. We talked about paving. I think paving still ought to be in the CIP budget. So I went through and I tried to do the analysis on paving costs, because I heard from people in town government, went up 50%. Okay, so how did it go up 50%? So that first thing I asked, and Jack sent me a copy of what the bid response was. Were there multiple bids, Jack, by the way? Just one.
That I don't know, because that happened.
I don't care right now. But I looked at the bid response. So in the past, we've gotten one bid for price per ton for asphalt. Why? Because if you need certain additional asphalt for whatever goes on, that's the price it is. That price is derived from the overall price of the project times the tons necessary. Okay. So first problem with the bid response on that is there are 4 or 5 different per ton prices. And there are 4 or 5 different calculations of material based on multiple compactions that we've never seen before from any vendor. That's why I asked, were there other bids? Because if there are other bids and they do it the same way, fine. If there aren't other bids, I'm curious why. The other problem that I noticed, and I don't know the answer to it, but I will within the next couple of days. For every bid that we've gone out to on the arterial roads like Grafton Turnpike or South Road or Gristmill Hill, We've gone with 20-foot paved portions of the road. There's a gravel shoulder on the side, but the travel portions are 20-foot. The standard is 20 to 22 feet. All of this road went on 22 feet. So by definition, the cost of the roads this year went up at least 10% because of just 2 feet extra. So, you know, one of my thoughts is, do we really get 22 feet or do we get 20 feet? So I think that's a question worth asking. All of these issues are contained within the CIP document. And that alone, between keeping a flat number for all of the contributions we currently make, and then putting in the lease purchases, which are going to go into the general fund, I believe, unless the laws change. If we're going to put them either place, it's still going to go to the tax rate. So I don't know what that cost is going to be because we haven't seen the numbers yet, but you know, even if it's 5% on $1 million, how much money is it? And that's going to be over and above what we spent. So we can nickel and dime John for 15 grand. But the fact of the matter is between doing major repairs in the library at $130,000 and new ambulance that has to be bonded, which doesn't need to be bonded, and new lease program on top of the existing funding program, it's $500,000 to $600,000 increase in costs. And we just added another 20.
Well, I think
We need to spend the time on the CIP piece.
anything else?
No, so I'm not gonna be here in the second. We have to make sure the Zoom recording works, because if it doesn't, there's gotta be some other kind of backup. Not that that's the most important thing I'm bringing up. But it's good to know. I used to have a little recorder. I have to have it.
It's in the office. So-
We still have it.
Are you done? You have more?
I got one more.
Yeah.
How did you make out the generators? Did you find any information about?
John and I are working through that. You know, we've pretty much isolated, I think, what we have, and we're trying to work on what their capacities are, what the need, you know, whether it's adequate or not to the task. So hopefully when he shows up to do his emergency stuff, we'll have a thought on the
That's the next
generators.
meeting also.
Huh?
That's the next meeting also.
Just one comment, the select board has stated many times that the amount going into the CIP would be reduced.
Gonna find all that out pretty soon.
That November 2nd meeting that's a huge meeting with all that highway stuff. I wonder, I know this gentleman from Enfield wants to come and talk about recreation. I think it's important, but I just wonder if that's the best time for him to come.
That's a good point.
Could
Could he make the 16th?
You know, I don't know, that was the only date that he said.
We can ask him about the 16th, just a few minutes from now, but on the 16th, we're gonna be meeting at the fire station, just so everybody knows. I think it's been posted, but I just want to wait for that. Yes, Mike.
Just a personal comment. Claude, I know you're online. I apologize. I'm feeling somewhat discouraged about not having the data. And it's not personal, I just would like to see the data.
I think you're wrong.
If I could reply to that, excuse me, it's not personal, I agree. What I wanted to clarify, as far as you saying, or what documents we have not shared. We had, prior to last Tuesday's meeting, which was like 4 business days ago, we only had one sheet of paper, one quote that had been provided to us by the highway department, which was for a quote for a 10-wheel dump truck, a 1-sheet quote. And I, like you said, Sal provided that to you. Tuesday, the highway department came in with three more quotes, a few pages apiece, on paper. That's all we have received so far. I'm working on a way to get those disseminated as you requested. It's only been a few days. Prior to that, we had not seen it. In fact, prior to last Tuesday, we had been using the highway department's estimates of equipment costs, which I watched you use, Mike, for the last 5 years in a row. It was a highway department or your estimate of what say a loader or a dump truck would cost. They had been, we had been using those estimates, but we insisted on getting quotes this year. And as I say, We just received 3 of those quotes a few days ago. So it's not like we're holding out or holding back or refusing to share. It's that the information has been late coming in this season. I am as deeply concerned as you are. I think the total amount of equipment the highway department seems to need, and they will be justifying it more with the document that Sal told you they are working on, meaning the highway department superintendent and the mechanic. They're going to make their case why they need the equipment, but it seems that they need, or they claim they need, an awful lot of new equipment. And yes, it does amount to hundreds of thousands of dollars in cost. I am as deeply concerned as you are, but we are not holding back. We've been publishing the minutes of our meetings. We don't have any final documents except those few quotes that are even available to share with anybody. It's still all very much in the building up working stages. That's about all I can say for now.
And thank you, Claude. I appreciate that. The other thing I might add is, could you post the time and place for the CIP meetings in a more public place than just on the bulletin?
So Mike, the time and place of the CIP meetings is in 3 or 4 places. Number 1, it's on the town calendar on the web. Number 2, it's on the CIP page. When you first go to the CIP page, it announces the next meeting right away. And number 3, it's in every single week's weekly newsletter.
Hasn't been there.
And it's on, I'm sorry, in one more place, it's on a piece of paper on the board in town hall.
Okay, because I'm the one that's, I mean, I could call up and look at it right now. But in all the past, it says the CIP committee will be meeting over the next several months to prepare a plan. It doesn't give a time and a place.
Oh, the heading page says that when the next meeting will be. I looked at it yesterday.
Yes, but it comes out 3 days before. So when I'm trying to put together a calendar for the next month to figure out how I'm gonna juggle my time.
Sorry, it's been out there sooner than that, but it is on the town calendar as well.
Okay, I'll take it off the town calendar. I'm
Yeah,
happy.
they are all, well, by the way, at this point, there's only one more meeting scheduled, but I feel that's not gonna be enough. Right now, next Tuesday's meeting was the last one on the schedule. We had been hoping to finish the CIP plan by then. It's not looking hopeful right now.
I'm sorry, Claude. I have sympathy for what you're trying to do.
All right, thank you, Claude. Thanks, Mike, and
I'll just say, deference to both Claude and Mike. There is a lot of moving pieces of this. This is a big move to go from purchase to lease. There's a lot of things that are, I'll say, out of our control in terms of getting the information. We're still working with the potential providers of the equipment to give us pieces of paper that they'll stand behind that identify all this thing. And I know Bob's working very hard in addition to going around trying to maintain the roads and do the painting, cleanup. So there's that. The ultimate price then determines what we get for the cost of finance, the amount we finance, what it's gonna cost and how long. That, nothing can move until we get actual bids on the equipment, actual estimates.
Mike makes a good point. I mean, this is a lot of moving parts to try
It
to
is.
jam into a.
No, yeah.
Might it have to go off till next year?
Yeah.
And we have to find something for this year.
No, that's
And
absolutely right. And the other element of that is, where we're also working on is a delivery time. Because if you're gonna buy a bunch of vehicles, they're not gonna be able to be acquired or paid for this year. Then the whole conversation is kind of moved and it can marinate for another year till everything comes together. So there's still a lot of supply issues and manufacturing glitches. So there is a lot going on. You're not gonna finish this on the second.
Yeah.
But a highway's gonna need more than one time. And so, but at a minimum, I think meeting with them on the second helps to begin this conversation, because I think you want to have hours of this conversation. Because there's a lot to talk about.
There's nuance
Meanwhile-
all over the place.
There's what,
If you go out to bid, or go out and get proposals, not really bid, but go out, get proposals, and it has a warranty. How do the warranties differ between the various companies? Are you only gonna rely on one company? What's the logic for only relying on one company as opposed to just comparing them all? On the buyback, how does the trade or whatever it's called to do a new piece of equipment?
Right.
No, I understand that. I mean, these are all the things that we're gonna have.
I
to
know,
look
but I
at.
just want the rest of the board to understand that somehow we gotta get some analysis of that done
Yes,
before we walk off the cliff.
that's right.
Well, I'm just saying, it's likely, I mean, in my mind, you know, for me to support something, at least from the budget, I mean, if I don't understand it and we're running up against time, I'm not gonna hastily vote for something simply because, oh my gosh, the clock's ticking, well, too bad, you know, it's just. So it can go before the voters in fact, you know, I mean, there's,
Right.
you put all this work in, better off taking your time and if it has to go off for another year so we can really analyze it and not in October, November, then so be it.
You might even contemplate a little more time. Let's try to get the vendors, the financiers and all that stuff, get all the information together, create a packet for everybody. You might actually consider a joint CIP budget committee meeting so that you can really dive into this, have it both ways, understand it. And then decide, because remember, you're gonna start out with whatever the number of pieces of equipment are. And we don't know what those costs are and this and the other thing. But through the budget process, we may decide, we're not, you know what, we're not gonna get 7 vehicles, we're only gonna get 3.
We're only gonna get,
You know what, and that, but that's part of this process.
If we could
he's got a priority on it.
yeah, okay.
Okay.
He's got a
Because,
priority on
For
it.
instance, if the graders are number one thing, do the grader.
I understand. He has a,
This conversation
he has a
should
1, 2,
be
3 priority, if you will.
November 2nd, not now in conjecture and what if and whatnot.
Right, I just
Wait
want
till the
to
fact
have
that-
enough time.
But it's good to think.
And you will, that's what the highway, that's why the highway department comes in.
Can we change the November 2nd agenda so the highway is up first?
Yeah, what do we have as?
You just make them only.
Yeah, I'm wondering that too, how the.
Sorry.
You can get ambulance building inspection done in 20 minutes.
I think you need highway and mechanic. You know, absolutely together.
Right.
Maybe we push off fire.
Push out fire and ambulance.
Yeah, and push somebody else up ahead, you know, get some of these other little ones out of the way and move them back to the. The next one.
The only thing is because we've sent this out and people have kind of.
Yeah, but we can send an update.
No, but I'm saying,
If you
I
give
know
them-
we can do that, but what if they're like, oh yeah, I can't,
If you
I
give-
guess we can ask.
If you give them 24 hours notice, that's legal.
Yeah, no.
Yes, I think maybe, you know, maybe we move, the. Well, I don't know, maybe I think the highway is the biggest conversation we're gonna have, so. If we keep them for the second and bring them in and get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
Right, and then, you know, we push the fire and ambulance back there next week and push a couple of these little ones up, get them out of the way before we get into the highway stuff. Just get them out of the way, that might, you know, balance it out.
So what are you proposing?
Okay.
Keep in mind, you could talk to highway about all of the other things, other than the lease purchase,
And I think,
CIP issue it. And at least begin to thin out the areas of discussion. So I think you're gonna meet with highway more than once.
Yeah. You know.
yeah, you're gonna have multiple meetings. We're gonna have to have more meetings to solve this. So
Yeah.
the little guys can come into some of the other little
Right.
meetings.
And just from an efficiency point, having the two committees together, CIP and budget, helps. Get the same message at the same time with the same needs list that flows out of it.
CIP is gonna be done first though, right? Like,
Yeah.
So that's not the case right now, because we have CIP in beginning of December.
Yeah, but I think, you know, I can say that there's been a lot of conversation. I mean, we've gone through this, you know, Jack's been there, Carrie has been at all the meetings, Bob's come in, we've gone through these. A lot of conversations about this. You know, it's difficult to go to somebody and say, good, give me a quote and hold it until at least the end of March, because we can't approve it until then. I mean, he's got a lot of, you know, it's a lot of difficult things to accomplish there. But to your point, Mike, he does have a 1, 2, 3 priority, if you will, out of the 7 that he's proposing. So there's
Is
a lot
that
of
on this
flexibility.
sheet at all?
I'm sorry.
Are those priorities on this sheet?
Yeah,
Got it.
yes, they are. I believe they are.
There's a notes column.
Yeah, the notes column.
How long do you think the discussion of the health insurance is gonna take?
4 minutes.
Okay, so we can move that, is it ready?
We don't have a solid
Okay,
quote.
so we can't
They
do
have-
that till the next
We
meeting.
don't, okay.
Um,
How about library? And trustees.
That
of
could be
trust-
controversial.
the library.
Yeah,
That's controversial too, that's exciting.
The budget goes up $130,000 for repairs.
I think you need to pick some more dates for more meetings.
There you go.
I think the problem, John, is trying to get days when everybody can come. I
Well,
don't know that we have it.
with those who can come.
We need to have a quorum.
Well, that's easy. half of us make a quorum. I'm sure you can
Hey, it's
find,
easy, but I mean, there's such nights of the week that I can't do this.
well, then you maybe not be able to attend, somebody else will have to attend.
Yeah, I don't
And the
wanna-
other problem with CIP is meeting in the middle of the morning.
Yeah.
So a lot of people may not be able to come in the morning.
But I have the job.
I work.
With the number of meetings scheduled, we can't complete.
Well, I don't know that that's true. It may just be that with the meetings we have scheduled, we can't embark on a brand new funding procedure because we don't have enough information. And so we may have to put it off. And I think that's the reality here. I don't want to go tie up, everybody's Decembers with a bunch of new meetings that maybe they can make and maybe they cannot. I mean, I guess let me pull the budget committee. I mean, what do we want to do? John's proposing several new.
But so some more meetings, I'll leave the number open for the moment.
I think we owe it to the CIP committee and a cushion to try.
Yeah.
Okay, I think it'd be unrealistic not to believe that we're gonna have to triage and just take the one or two top items and vote. And that helps in a variety of ways, it hurts in a variety of ways, but at least it gets progress going forward.
Yeah, I think we tried, let's, but I think if we did move, if we can figure out some of those ones in the next meeting, get fire and ambulance out of the way, move them back.
This is Ellie, and I'd like to make a statement if you don't mind.
Sure.
Go ahead,
Go ahead.
Hello?
yes.
Hello?
Yeah.
Speak.
Well,
She can't hear us.
did you pick up on the phone?
Hello?
We're here.
She's on her home phone.
Yes, Ellie, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I just listening to the conversation, and I wanted to make a suggestion that would probably be the least upsetting, because Nate and I have worked very hard on this, and getting all the department heads together at certain times is not an easy task under even normal circumstances. So my suggestion would be to leave the next meeting, November 2nd, the way it is, and let Bob present his normal budget, his normal operating budget, same with the mechanic. And then we can tackle, I think there's enough room, according to what Jack said, because we probably won't have much on the health insurance, and the library is usually pretty well got its act together. And trustees of trust fund don't take long. So my suggestion would be to add the highway and maybe the mechanic to November 16th and have them come in twice. Because if the CIP is not going to be done before November 2nd, like Nate said, there's no point in, just going through the motions of doing stuff when we don't have anything to work with.
That'd be good.
So we can try that.
And this isn't a posted document either. So I don't have to make any changes as long as we're not changing dates or times. And the other thing is the November 16th room will be the fire station, because that's reserved already for that. So we don't have a lot of things to work with. The other thing is the police chief is using the ELC. So you can't assume that you can have that room whenever you want it. So we need lead time if we want to change anything as far as dates and times to work out the room situation.
Mike.
Can I recommend a Thanksgiving Day meeting,
Oh, yeah.
Christmas Day meeting?
No, I think
Are you
that's,
bringing the turkey? Are you bringing the turkey?
Yeah, but check it.
But what we definitely,
Where's the turkey?
That's on the record, right?
we're definitely gonna need food.
Let's just keep making progress in the ordinary stuff.
yeah, I agree.
Obviously, the lease and the purchase, that's the big nut in the room, and we can deal with that, but you've also got the regular budget you're gonna continue to work through.
I think Ellie's suggestion is a good one.
I'm fine with that.
Can you hear us, Ellie?
Yeah, hang on. Yes, I had you on mute. Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I think that's the least disruptive.
So let's do that, and we can let Bob and Guy know that they're gonna come on the 16th as well.
Yeah, I'll give them a heads up. I might even stop. Well, actually, they won't be there tomorrow, probably. Guy might be there. I think everybody else is on a
Be around
4-day
'cause
work
they're
week.
not-
Is that right, Jack? Jack, is Guy there on Friday?
I believe he is, Monday through Friday, these.
Okay, and I might stop and I usually walk by there in the afternoon. If he's around, I'll stop and visit him. But I'll send him some emails tomorrow if that's what you want me to do. And ask them if they can come in again on the 16th. But the other thing is, you got to remember too, is that you're getting late in the year and you've got storms. So if it, happens to snow November 16th, which is not unheard of, they might not be able to make it.
We won't let it.
All right, so we got, tentative plan, we have an extra one, and John, if we feel like after all of this, we do need to put something else in the calendar, I think we'll try to do that at that point. But I think this is a good solution, at least, we'll see how the next meeting goes and see what the following one's gonna be like, have CIP and that done, and then the lease discussion, which is gonna be a lot. And we'll go from there.
And obviously what we're gonna be doing is, we're gonna be continuing to push to get all this information. Put it in an organized way, get it out to you, so that obviously you're not seeing it for the first time. We need just to get it, and then we can organize it, and, once we get all the vehicle information nailed down, then we can determine with certainty what the lease stuff is gonna be, then we can determine what the warranty is gonna be, but. We're just at the mercy of people that don't work for us.
One comment on chat was, as a taxpayer, it would be very disappointed if a budget committee as a whole, who are elected officials, can't find the time or more meetings than we are facing these challenges.
You ever announce, by the way, who's making the challenge?
I want names.
Isn't it? It should be.
Then they'll both work.
Well, are we sure they're a resident? I'm sure. That would be the only.
I would request that, we used to do it, we say,
What's your name and where do you live?
yeah, or just what's your name at least.
Hey, where do you live?
Well, because.
So that comment was made by Dan Collins. Opinion.
Thanks to you.
I hope we are putting our time.
What's that?
I said, I think we are putting our time in, but
Oh,
we've already pointed out that we aren't gonna see stuff until the
Yeah,
second.
I mean, that's not on us.
Okay.
Entertain a motion to adjourn,
So moved.
second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
Oh, I see priorities, thank you.
We're trying. We're trying.
I don't even know where it all
Other stuff to do.
I used to work for Enfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.